Glitchlet. Do you remember when you first discovered glitches in Pokemon? I remember when I did. Summer, 1999, at the Kingswood Summer Club. Pokemon Red and Blue had been released previous year, which I guess would make me 8 or 9. The Pokemon craze was in full swing over here in the UK. Every day I packed up my Pikachu Yellow Game Boy Color, Pokemon Red permanently slotted into the top. Me and my friends would gather together with our link cables for epic trading and battle sessions that lasted the whole day, or just till parents came to pick us up at home time. Around midsummer, our group was starting to feel like we'd seen it all and done it all. Sure, I don't think we'll ever catch them all. Back then, it seemed like an impossibility. We had grinded to level 100, eliminated the Elite Four more times than we can remember. The game was starting to lose its straw. There were still 4 long weeks of set left. Then, we saw a missing no. I remember the first kid I knew to have him. He told us his brother showed him how to catch this super rare, super awesome Pokemon. We gathered around as he revealed that Pokemon to us. That magical, distorted reverse L. Shape that held that key to infinite rare candies. We were all instantly in love and dying to get one of these rare Pokemon ourselves. So he passed on the secret and showed us how. Within the next few days, our little group was hooked on glitches. We scorched magazines for the latest bugs and tricks. We visited Glitch City, battled all kinds of high-level Pokemon off the coast of Cinnabar, and we even caught Mew. But there was one glitch which I have never been able to record of since. Funnily enough, I couldn't remember the details and how to pull it off, but I remember the outcome. Glitchlet. The technique for finding this little guy followed the pattern of a lot of tedious Pokemon encounter bugs in Red and Blue. Talk to this dude, fly to this place. It might have to do something with Celadon, I'm not really sure. Glitchlet was just as you expected, a glitched up Diglett. The sprite was mostly intact, but the face was distorted, Missy No style. There was a few distorted lines though, like scan lines, and the cry was a little weird too. Although I couldn't put my finger on what it was, his level was never visible, but we guessed it must have been over 100, as we can hardly put a mark on him while we're trying to catch him. Most of us resorted to one of our many clone Master Balls. We nicknamed him Glitchlet, and that night we eagerly tried what this guy could do. The next day, we all met up to compare results. By this point, we all considered ourselves Pokemon glitch experts. Experience with Glitchlet were varied. One guy claimed it messed up his game so bad it couldn't play anymore and he had to reset. Others said that they tried to battle with Glitchlet only to find that the game crashed every time they tried. I had the most luck in battles. With the new glitch Pokemon, his only move was Dig. He couldn't learn any HMs or TMs, even those that you expect a Diglett to be able to learn. Against wild Pokemon, Glitchlet was a powerhouse. He never lost PP, and together we OHKO'd every Pokemon we came across. But the attack itself was odd. It took 2 turns as usual, but after the first turn, it would be hit with some kind of self-damaging recoil. There was no explanation other than Diglett was hurt, and then strange cry, but it never made much of a mark on him. Glitchlet's HP was higher than anything I ever seen, and because it took only 1 dig to destroy any wild Pokemon, it was never much of a problem. I laid waste to my friend's teams during Link battles, and he soloed the Elite Four. I remember when things got even stranger. I was leveling up a team using EXP All. Destroying wild Pokemon with Glitchlet seemed the obvious choice, and I maxed out many Pokemon this way in the past. I woken up early that morning to level especially, and I had spent all day KOing wild Pokemon. At that moment, I was under my bed, covering with my trusty Game Boy Color light. Mom would get mad if she knew I wasn't asleep at this time. Everything was going to plan, and my new team was swelling up beautifully. It must have been concernedly pretty hard, because it was too late when I noticed how low Glitchlett's health had become. I selected Dig for the final time, and watched Cry louder than before, and my stomach turned as I watched his health bar slide towards 0. The bar doubled back on itself, and it seemed too empty 4 or 5 times before Glitchlet repeated his dying cry, now a horrible noise. Diglett was killed. Do you want to use the next Pokemon? I know it's cliche in those kinds of stories, but I remember that vividly. I selected no. My other team members would have made a mark on these enemy Pokemon anyway. As I warped to the overworld and found myself back in the unknown dungeon, opening my Pokemon menu confirmed what I've seen. My beloved Glitchlet at the top of the party, health reduced to 0. I selected him and not sure what thing I have done, and I noticed that something was different. Maybe it was there before, but I think I would have noticed that Dig was now selectable outside of battle. I thought for a moment, maybe it was the atmosphere, but this move was suddenly chilling me. Glitchlet had never been damaged by any wild Pokemon, only by this move. It wasn't even as though he's hurt himself in confusion or with recoil, whatever had hurt and ultimately killed him had been underground all along, waiting, sapping Glitchlet's life each time I sent him to attack. His death cry echoed in my ears as I realized what I've done. My thumb hovered over the A button, my brain willingly myself to dig and get out of this cave, but my stomach felt sick. What was down there anyway? I was stuck with no choice. The exit was too far away. My remaining Pokemon would have been destroyed if I got there. With a lump in my throat, I dug, and my sprite began spinning into the earth, and the screen went black. I wasn't surprised when I realized where I was. Not the entrance to the cave, or even the nearest Pokemon Center, but a glitched out cave that I now realize was some kind of bugged version of Diglett's cave. I checked my Pokemon and saw Glitchlet's health has been restored. It is now my only Pokemon, the other 5 members of my team missing entirely. I chose Dig again. Oak called me. Fortunately, this wasn't the time to use that move. With no means of escape, I set off looking for the exit. My sprite moved slowly, more of a crawl than a walk. As I moved, the cave's walls bugged out, turning red, flexing and swelling and out like the lungs of a monster. Slowly, music began to play, high-pitched and distorted and horrible. It was quiet at first, but grew louder with every step. As it played, something became familiar. A familiar tune beneath the whirling bug notes. Without thinking, I began to mouth the words to the music. Diglett-dig, Diglett-dig, trio, trio, trio. Diglett-dig, Diglett-dig, trio, trio, trio. Then, I encountered a Pokemon. A wild Dugtrio appeared. As distorted battle music began, the level 225 Dugtrio appeared before my eyes. The cry was awful, warped scream that seemed to become a Bronson crunch before stopping immediately. Dugtrio's sprite, like Glitchlet, was deformed. Dugtrio's 3 faces, with hollow eyes, twisted into pixelated hollows that looked somehow painful. The bottom of the sprite was unrecognizable. It looked as though 3 deformed clawed arms were rising from the dirt around Dugtrio's body. My only Pokemon was released, and Glitchlet's back sprite appeared before me. His cry played again, quiet, and seemingly a lot weaker. I was just a bystander, now as the game took control, selecting an attack from the menu. Of course, dig was the only option. My hands were sweaty as I gripped the Game Boy tight. My breath was hot on the screen. Doug Trio went first. Doug Trio used Scratch. It hit 6 times, each triggering the painful cry from the Glitch Pokemon. Glitchlet was left with a sliver of health as he retaliated with his own attack. Diglett used Struggle. It hardly made a mark, as expected, but it was strange how Dig had never lost PP before. As previous, the game selected the next move. As attack was chosen, I noticed Glitchlet suddenly had no moves. 2 words appeared where the first 2 attacks should have been. No hope. Doug Trio's cry echoed again as it launched an assault of scratches with its deadly, horrible arms. Glitchlet was killed after the first strike. Diglett is dead. Do you want to continue? I didn't really understand the question, but that didn't matter. No one was selected for me. The battle faded away, back on the overworld. The world swelled and glitched before my eyes, and the maddening music began again. I expected Glitchlet, his sprite, had changed now, although his face was never visible. Like Doug Trio's, it seemed to be formed into a pixelated screen. Dark brown stripe cut through the sprite. They looked like claw marks. Blood. I pressed on. I don't know what I was thinking at that stage, just that this tiny Pokemon had infected my game in a much bigger way than I expected. Which Pokemon seemed kind of wrong to me then, as though it was something I ought to not have been messing with. Something we didn't understand or couldn't control. With no Pokemon left, I was surprised to find that I didn't black out or warp to the Pokemon Center. The game just continued as usual. It was only a few steps before the Pokemon encounter theme played and it turned black. A wild Doug Trio appeared. This Pokemon sprite was different to the last, almost completely disfigured. The cry seemed as though it wouldn't end, screaming and wailing as the pixelated monster appeared on the screen. Through the glitches and cut pixels, I couldn't make out the hollow sockets of 8 eyes, 8 terrible clawed hands, and a gaping mouth. With no Pokemon left, my trainer's back sprite faced the glitch head-on. Before my eyes, the screen faded as the Game Boy batteries cut out. Whatever had happened gripped me with fear. That night I didn't sleep. I even took the game out of the now dead Game Boy, although I'm not sure what that would have done. Days later, I started that game up. I didn't save during what had happened, so I was returned to the last save point. Glitchlet was at the head of the party. Dig was the only move. I thought for a moment, before abandoning this game forever and starting anew. But I'll never forget how it all started and how it all happened. Like something out of a horror movie that keeps on repeating and repeating over and over and over. Whenever I saw that glitch head on. And everyone has to move on. And I can't seem to forget the whole thing like nothing happened. Like digging into my skin and controlling me and what actions I do. But it's all in my head. And hallucinations, this whole thing. But I see the cartridge, all the horrors I fear, and still in there, waiting for it to come out and scare me forever in my head.